Mr. Speaker, this House descended into the most offensive environment with what was just shared by the honorable member before me. Offensive, vile, and I will never descend to that level of histrionics, ringside theatrics, and circumvention of the truth in what I say. Mr. Speaker, when members come to this House, when they speak, the entire country listens. The entire country will be able to determine whether it's truthful or not. And there are many truths that I would like to share with this honorable House this afternoon. My colleague, Dr. Ashni Kumar Singh, came back to this country on his own recognizance, of his own volition, and he faced those charges. I want to say that. He did not flee this country. He faced those charges, and every one of us, the entire nation, was quite aware that it was a political witch hunt because those charges amounted to zero. Truth number one. Second, when you speak of the tragedy of the Henry boys and you use it for political offensive mileage in this hallowed house, it speaks volumes of you. Not in a good way either, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister, myself, and Cabinet colleague Minister Robeson Ben were the first on the scene from the government of Guyana. And subsequent to that visit, and we visited both homes, the families benefited from psychosocial support. I will not raise the pain of that family by going into that, but I will just say that one of those families is benefiting from public assistance. So if we did not do anything, I don't know how that would have occurred. Mr. Speaker, mention was made of GCOM. GCOM is a constitutional entity, and monies are allocated to GCOM. Mr. Speaker, further I will say the DPP cannot be directed, and to say that about an honorable person in their absence in this House is nothing short of staying true to character and being extremely vile in what you were saying. Mr. Speaker, when people come to these debates, it is intended for us to critically examine the budget, for us to offer recommendations of a constructive nature, and for us to look at what was done and what is to come. Very little, in my humble estimation, was offered in what went on just now. Mr. Speaker, I would sincerely like to thank and congratulate my colleague, Dr. Ashni Kumar Singh, his members of staff, the members of staff of all of the ministries, including the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, for their dedicated work in crafting a budget to the tune of $552.9 billion. I often ask myself why there is need to belligerently bellow, creating a cacophony of banshee-like yowling from that side. Why? Why must we be consistently regaled with that kind of behavior? Save that for the ringside. Mr. Speaker, I do not need to do that. I can quietly share the result of hard work, meticulous structure, and careful organization, which were considered to be the hallmark of the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security in the last year. We were able to revolutionize the manner in which pensions were distributed and are distributed currently across the length and breadth of Guyana. And we did not take 5 years to do it. We have done it in 1 year. From ensuring that pensioners receive their books early in the year, to ensuring that there are no longer those long lines, but there are alternate venues for pension payment, and also ensuring that Guyanese pensioners in the remotest part of our land can benefit from pension with as much as 6 months of their pension in their hands at one time. That is what you call progress. That's what you call not conjecture or delusions of grandeur or any kind of fanciful fantasy. That is reality. Mr. Speaker, I think the members of the opposition need to have multiple reality checks, because it seems that they're living in their surreal parallel universe that is devoid of any kind of logic and also reality. As I speak on the pensions, Mr. Speaker, we're looking at an increase, and we're looking at placing $2.3 billion of disposable income in the hands of our pensioners. I will not stand here as part of the PPPC government and say that we have done all that we can, but this is just the beginning in 18 months where we would have increased pension beyond what the APNU AFC government did for their entire 5 years, Mr. Speaker. We are committed to consistently increasing that pension until pensioners are at the point as promised by our manifesto. And when we consider manifestos, Mr. Speaker, and we compare records, which I think we should do at this point in time, I want to say what was promised in the manifesto of the APNU AFC government, and it went something like this. In fact, it went exactly like this. We will immediately double the level of old age pensions and public assistance and develop a plan to incrementally increase the old age pension to the level of the minimum wage. Let me give you the reality check. 2015, 3,875, and that was the highest. Then the incremental increase led to a reality in the decreases that followed: 1,200 in 2016, 800 in 2017, 500 in 2018. And so where was the incremental increases that they promised? Nowhere. So when people come with the sanctimonious protestations and the fervor of their convictions, they need to do research in their own homes to see what the reality really was. In fact, Mr. Speaker, over 5 years, they did not at all live up to the promise that they made to the pensioners. Mr. Speaker, in 18 months, we have increased pension by 37%. And as I said, it is just the beginning. But this budget that speaks of resoluteness, this budget that speaks of being steadfast, is not a budget that can be looked at in a silo. Instead, the facets of the budget integrate and interlock to provide a holistic, comprehensive approach to families across the country. The good that the Ministry of Health will do through improved healthcare services, the good that the Because We Care cash grant will do for children in a family and by extension that family, the good that infrastructure will bring through connectivity, ease of transit, and also decrease loss of time getting from one place or another, and improve connectivity, the good that the Ministry of Housing will do by providing affordable housing, all of that adds on to what every other ministry will accomplish, including the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security. We cannot, and we must not allow this kind of fallacy to present itself when people just selectively and conveniently extrapolate parts of this budget for an ulterior agenda. Mr. Speaker, when we look at the cumulative benefits of the people, the benefits that they will achieve from this budget, the 2022 budget, I think they will be anxious for successive budgets that will build on this robust framework that this budget will provide. Let's talk about women, Mr. Speaker, and men. In the last year, monies were expended to train women and men, and we have increased to 172 million to continue and expand that training. And like my colleague ministers, I can say that training was inclusive. Training was inclusive to the extent that every region benefited from the training that was offered. The WIN program, Women's Innovation Investment Network, that saw $93 million being expended to train women across the country, and 2,170 women were trained in diverse technical vocational skills and information communication technology that for some of them was nothing short of life-changing. Mr. Speaker, the beauty of this program was that there is no eligibility criteria attached to a woman getting access to this kind of training. And not only is she equipped with training that makes her more employable and puts her on the path to develop her own micro-enterprise, she's also equipped with training on legislation, on social issues, and on a number of areas that will aid in her self-development. Mr. Speaker, when I went to the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, it was nothing short of sleepy, stagnant. Not much happened. In 1 year, that ministry has been revolutionized to such an extent that people said, was there a ministry like this before? We had never heard of it. And Mr. Speaker, we continued to ensure that more and more programs were churned out in so many convenient ways, so that people who chose to access our programs in person, they had the chance to do that. They wanted to access online, they could do that. These programs were, are, and will continue to be free to all the women of Guyana. It is envisaged that we will expand our training to cater for over 4,000 women to be trained in 2022. Mr. Speaker, it was not only about training, and it was not only looking at training in an abstract context. It was ensuring that whatever was delivered through training, it was relevant to niche markets and the demands out there. So for the first time, people in the hinterland got training in a number of areas where they can easily find jobs in all of the sectors in their region. In fact, the WIN program was launched in Region 1 in Baramita. And to date, we have trained over 150 Amerindian or indigenous persons, and we have trained 1,000 women from the rural communities. That's the kind of work that we have been doing at the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security. The movement of this training is towards increasing women in the labor force. We speak of the gender divide, we speak of the digital divide, and we speak about gender inequality. With this kind of training, moving women to a state of financial independence, we are looking at narrowing those divides, and also with the laser focus on ICT, narrowing the digital divide. Mr. Speaker, as we looked at training, the model mushroomed out comprehensively. How could you, in addition to training, empower women further? The first female business incubator was constructed and established in 2021. That female business incubator will be accessed by women across the country, where they will have support services to help them with marketing their product or skill, and to also have an equal shot at the environment where they can earn in a competitive manner. To further accelerate their opportunity, we have launched the WIN app. This is a groundbreaking app, and if you want to, you can upload it on your phones. It's called WIN or WinGY on the Apple phone. What does it bring to women? It brings the opportunity for women to advertise their products at no cost to them, and puts their product in the hands of every Guyanese who would have an app on their phone. It's that big for the women of Guyana. In addition to all of that, we created an empowerment fund, and 2,660 women across the length and breadth of Guyana in every region benefited from $50,000 towards their business ventures. That's progress, Mr. Speaker. It is not only looking at those avenues, but when someone gets a certificate, I was very insistent that the certificate be accredited. So these certificates are UK or UG accredited. So when those women have those certificates in their hand, it is a definite feeling of empowerment. In March of 2021, we launched a beautiful initiative that again transformed opportunities for women. And many of them said that this really propelled them into more of a visible type of profile. This We Lift, Women's Empowerment, Leading, Innovating, Flourishing Together initiative was launched at the Arthur Chung Conference Center, and 75 women-owned businesses participated. And Mr. Speaker, what was very good about all of this was that the women not only participated, but they got noticed, they got business, and now many of them are expanding. And I want to say that this year in 2022, we will not only hold We Lift in Region 4, but we will also expand it to a couple regions. Mr. Speaker, I just want to share what some of those participants said. Lurbai Shiv, thank you, Ministry of Human Services, for this opportunity to express our brand. It was impactful to be a part of We Lift. We highly appreciate the organizers for their support and assistance, and for the energy they created. Little Otter Candles. We had the opportunity in participating along with other female entrepreneurs in the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security's We Lift, a signature two-day event to celebrate women. It was truly empowering to see how other women like myself are making their marks. Collectively, I believe that this women-owned initiative will bring immense diversity to business in Guyana and will make it strong. I want to applaud and congratulate every woman who would have excelled, jumped into business, and would be taking the risks, and more so to thank all those who participated in our program. Thank you. In addition to working with women, we are in the process of creating a digital database to track the progress of women, to continue to support them so that they can effectively expand and sustain their businesses and become well-known names across the length and breadth of Guyana. So it is a business directory that we are looking to have. Mr. Speaker, when we think of women in the country, we must know that once women are empowered, once they're elevated, they can make an indelible impact in governance, in education, and on every conceivable national platform and sector across the length and breadth of Guyana. Mr. Speaker, as I share with you, it is with great pride too that I say that a very tangible, evident transformation is happening at the Ghana Women's Leadership Institute. Here again, the government of the day, we are establishing many opportunities for women. We're investing in women. And so the Ghana Women's Leadership Institute has a brand new, modern, well-equipped computer lab, which will continue to deliver training to women. In addition, there is modernization and also rehabilitation of all of the training spaces at the Ghana Women's Leadership Institute. By the way, no one knew about that under the AFC government because it was starved of resources and it was just in absolute decay and disrespect. Yes, like everything else, disrepair. So this year, in 2022, we'll be opening a state-of-the-art culinary center at the Ghana Women's Leadership Institute, which will offer women the opportunity to benefit from classes and training so that they can start their own businesses or become more employed. This is progress, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I continue, I must not only spend time on what's happening with our women in the country, but I feel very passionate about this because I think the mission is to remove them from the lowest brackets of pay to higher brackets and to ensure that they have equal opportunity as their male counterparts. And our males were also focused on through the International Men's Day celebration, which we will continue to host, and also training in anger management, conflict resolution, and the formation of a number of men's groups in all of our regions. Mr. Speaker, when we think of the regime of before, we can see them on a consistently taxist level, and I made that word up, I'm not going to tell you otherwise, because all they did was to tax and burden people with taxes. This government can be seen to consistently remove, reduce, and not put taxes on the backs of people. That is progress, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I move towards more of the work of the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, I also want to say that much work would have been done for and with people living with disabilities. Now, in addition to benefiting from the public assistance increase, which is going to amount to $385 million, persons living with disability will be able to, this year, when the center opens in the first half of the year, benefit from training opportunities and other skills at our center that will cater exclusively for teenagers, young adults, and adults living with disability from across the country. In addition to that, last year, persons living with disabilities benefited from $120 million. This year, if you combine the cost of the shelter, the center that we are constructing and opening, and you combine what is budgeted for persons with disabilities, it will amount to nothing short of $200 million. Mr. Speaker, that is inclusive, considerate governance. In addition to that, included in that is the construction of a brand new facility for children who have special needs. They're going to be removed from the completely untenable environment that I found them in, and they will have a brand new institution that we can all be very proud of, and that's a first. Mr. Speaker, also last year, we collaborated with the Ministry of Education, and we were able to fund the screening of children who could have potentially have autism and dyslexia in the hinterland. And so that level of screening will enable children to benefit better from the education delivery as if they are autistic or they have learning issues like dyslexia, they can now be treated and dealt with. Mr. Speaker, as I continue to speak on a number of initiatives that would have been undertaken by the Ministry of Human Services, and also what we plan to do this year, you can see this is a presentation with substance. And I do not need to scream it to the rooftops. The people who benefit and continue to benefit and benefited, they know, and I'm sure they're happy to see to the others across the country. Mr. Speaker, the Sophia Drop-In Center. Oh my goodness, never have I seen such squalor. And Mr. Speaker, the children in just a few weeks will have a spanking new kitchen and dining area and a recreation room just for them, children in our care. And that is to the tune of $38 million. Mr. Speaker, it is not only persons with special needs, but persons who are homeless, who are indigent. What are we doing for them? Programs will continue to be rolled out. The night shelter has undergone serious transformation, expanding and increasing its capacity and ensuring that people who are homeless and indigent are treated with dignity. They will also have the opportunity to benefit from free training, and I've already discussed this with my colleague, Minister Joe Hamilton, because it's not only to provide shelter and food, but also to work on the development of people who may not have had an opportunity in life, or maybe life just treated them badly, and to get them back into the labor force and to taking care of themselves. Mr. Speaker, as I continue, there is a very big area that falls under this ministry, and that is the area of gender-based violence. Mr. Speaker, a comprehensive look at gender-based violence was done last year, and a number of initiatives have emerged, and those initiatives will be expanded as we continue to provide access to services and access to justice in the remote areas, the hinterland, and the rural communities across the length and breadth of Guyana. The 914 free 24-hour toll-free hotline is now joined by the app, the gender-based violence app called I Matter. Just put that on your phone and you will find all of our resources and a panic button that is linked to the 914 hotline to access help. And in addition to that, programs for women too, Minister McCoy. In addition to that, we will also be looking to expand our Survivors Advocates program. This is the personalized support to persons who are experiencing violence. And they will now be equipped to provide survivors with survival kits. In addition to that, we've been doing serious work with the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Guyana Police Force, training policemen. The target this year is 75% of the police force through the Cop Squad initiative, so that the police can be more accountable, professional, efficient, and deal very well with cases of gender-based violence. Mr. Speaker, in addition to all of that, a number of programs will be rolled out to rehabilitate offenders and perpetrators of abuse and violence. And my colleague, Attorney General, and I will be this year launching the Hope and Justice Centers that will provide decentralized legal services, decentralized access to all of the services that are required by persons experiencing gender-based violence. Mr. Speaker, it is not ad hocism. It is a structured, comprehensive approach to one of the toughest social issues to tackle in our country. We need to cultivate reporting, and so the Community Advocates Network was launched last year. This year, that network will expand to include members of the public, citizens who are advocates, and persons who would like to see a reduction in the numbers of gender-based violence. Mr. Speaker, we move on now to children. As I move to children, I want to say that children are extremely important to the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security. Mr. Speaker, when we think of children, we want to keep them safe. And so we launched the Every Child Safe campaign, which allows engagement with the community directly through the ministry to ensure that children and adults understand to recognize child abuse in all of its dimensions and how they can access help. The Every Child Safe campaign of the Ministry of Human Services benefited from books that were crafted to start the conversation among children in a very sensitive and appropriate way. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister, before you can continue, we'll have to give you an extension. Thank you, Honorable Minister Tishir. Honorable Minister, you may continue to conclude.
Thank you, Chief Whip, and I would have loved that half an hour because I could tell you enough things to fill that half an hour. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for 5 minutes. Mr. Speaker, when we look at the allocation to child care and protection, $852 million allocated in the 2021 budget and increased to $955 million in 2022. Mr. Speaker, what can the public expect? They can expect early childhood development programs being placed on children 0 to 4 years, with buildings being done to serve the dual purpose of daycare as well as early childhood development centers, so that we not only work with the children, but we work with their parents through the launch of our parenting modules and manuals, so that we can really have more effective parenting and parents being open to best practices that exist across the world. Mr. Speaker, we're also focusing on young people. One of the programs of this ministry that I really felt very happy about was the Young Influencers Program. And this program will again be rolled out in 2022, where 25 young people from every region had the opportunity to work with the ministry, to be involved in community outreach projects, and to have even the opportunity to present on very high-level platforms like the United Nations. Mr. Speaker, our young people did not disappoint, and I want to congratulate them on all of their endeavors in 2021, and I look forward to a brand new batch in 2022. As we continue to focus on youth, we will be working towards mentorship program and looking at a program in addition to the mentorship youth program, where young people who are aging out of the institutions, the state institutions, state care, have access to housing and opportunities for employment, so that when they age out of the institution, they could still have a steady, stable life. So as you can see, Mr. Speaker, there are many, many things that would have been done by the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security. And the Support and Heal Network must not be forgotten. This is where over 30 faith-based organizations came together to work with the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and would have partnered with us to work with vulnerable communities, providing grief counseling, all different types of counseling, because we would have trained them as trainers and persons who can provide these services, and helping us to reach out in a myriad different ways to vulnerable communities. Mr. Speaker, I want to share with you some comments from 2 persons who were trained through the Ministry of Human Services, and these are persons who are visually impaired or blind. And I remember meeting these gentlemen, and it was as if a whole new world had opened for them, because we didn't only train them, but they were presented with tablets and other support aids, including wheelchairs, to help them to access training and to continue what they would have learned. Colin Caesar said, "I tried to use a computer, and it was difficult not knowing how to go about doing so, but the JAWS program has enabled me to use the computer." Kumar Ramjat I'm thankful to the ministry for giving us the opportunity for the computer course, and I'm very grateful as it was my first time using a computer. But Mr. Speaker, our work did not stop there. Our work that moves us to the state of one Guyana, and it's not an elusive thing. We can do this because we have every day of the week, being reaching out to communities across this country in person and in so many different ways. And through the difficult circumstances unit of the Ministry of Human Services, we were able to provide 1,300 pairs of spectacles to people across the country, with the majority from the hinterland regions. To say that it was life-changing, I would be doing a disservice, because many of those people would never have had access to that. Mr. Speaker, I want to also highlight a very excellent program that I know will come, but it has already started, with the injection of $600,000 towards dialysis patients to help with dialysis. Excellent. And I know this is so because through the difficult circumstances unit, we were able to help over 75 such dialysis patients. So this is where the government of the day is listening to what the people of our country want, and they're delivering in a very excellent and commendable mode. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that these debates will continue to the end of the week, but I hope that those on the other side of the House will think long and hard before they return and display any kind of obnoxious, offensive behavior, but bring substance, but bring recommendations of value, and bring some of what we can consider and we can engage with them. Mr. Speaker, if you are truly interested in people, you will not keep a list of people who you say were deprived of a cash grant. You would have submitted it to the Ministry of Finance. Mr. Speaker, if you're truly interested in people, you will not deprive people from services which are easily available and accessible. You will point them in the direction of those services. Mr. Speaker, if you were truly interested in every person of this country, you will not tell them to stay away from things that will benefit them, even more so a cleanup campaign that benefited entire communities. Mr. Speaker, if you were truly interested in people, you would find every available opportunity to engage with the ministers of government to see how you can help the people in your communities. And the people on the other side, if they are true to themselves, they will know that when they approach me, I'm not only approachable, but I help. So I think I can speak for all of my colleagues to say that they would do the same. So, Mr. Speaker, in the true spirit of the debate, in the true spirit of love for country, love for the people of the country, do the right thing. I thank you.